Good morning everyone, and a very happy Monday to you all. My name is Kerry Dupree and we are starting here at Mantis Lodge over in the Eastern Cape of South Africa with three very snoozy looking rhinos. I must say I am feeling like I wish I could be snoozing just like these rhinos as well. Most of us are all getting back to work, so unlike these rhinos, we have a lot to do. These rhinos look like they're having a pretty chill day otherwise. Just a reminder folks, this is a live and interactive experience, so please feel free to send through those questions and comments. I'd love to hear from you. The festive season is coming to an end. I know most people are probably heading back to work this week or next week, but I'd love to hear how your holidays have been. What was the highlight of your festive season? I went on a lovely trip away to Zimbabwe and Botswana, so I had a great time, but I'd love to hear from you. Looks like we had some warthogs that also came by the waterhole. They didn't seem too phased by having a mud bath at all, not hanging around too long. Check out these rhinos. They are just living their best life here. Looks like quite a nice day in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Blue skies, some nice clouds around. I can't say the same for Johannesburg. I must say I'm struggling with a weather whiplash at the moment. Johannesburg, I don't think, or Gauteng province, I don't think they can decide. This province cannot decide if it's hot, cold, rainy. This morning it was gritty and miserable and misty everywhere. I went for a cycle and now a few hours later, the sun is out, it is hot, and then it builds up for thunderstorms. You feel like it's the end of the world. So we've had a lot of very peculiar weather in the Gauteng province of South Africa. Got a comment coming through. Brody says, hi Kerry, how was your trip? Did you see any wildlife? So Brody, yes, we had an incredible trip. Obviously, I'm sure most of you are aware the roads in Zimbabwe are appalling. So we made our way to Botswana. We stayed at Nata, going to see the bird sanctuary, which was flooded with all the rains that they've had. So we didn't get too far into the sanctuary, but I got a few awesome bird lifers in the Nata bird sanctuary, and of course lots of wildlife along the Panamatenga Road, also into Zambezi National Park. Had lions making a kill close to our campsite, leopards calling, the buffalo came to join us for dinner, so it was a great trip. Brody, I'd love to hear from you what your festive season entailed. What did you get up to during the festive season? Got another comment from Claire Cat, says, morning Kerry, happy new year. A good morning to you too, Claire Cat. We have a lot of activity at this waterhole today, lots happening. You can see a little bit of family politics with our family of Egyptian geese, and the warthogs seem to be, I'd say, indecisive. They cannot decide whether they want to come and have a wallow at the waterhole, if they're happy to share it with the rhinos. They can't decide what they want to do. But on a nice sunny morning like this, it is a perfect place for rhino and warthogs to come for a little mid-morning wallow. Good morning, Melanistic Marble. Thank you for joining us. We've also got Eric who's joining us today from Indiana in the USA. Thank you for joining us, Eric. Always good to have viewers from across the globe. It's amazing to think how many different people are watching from every little corner of the planet. It's quite amazing sometimes to see the locations that our viewers are all tuning in from. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm currently sitting in a very sunny Johannesburg, but the weather could change any moment. Looks like there are some clouds building up. As soon as it gets a bit hot and humid, the rain does start to build for nice big thunderstorms in the afternoon. So we're in the midst of our rainy season here in southern Africa, and I believe it is probably one of the best rainy seasons we've had for at least 4 to 5 years. Some regions have already experienced their annual rainfall just in half of the rainy season, so that's always great news to hear. The bush is thriving at the moment. We've got some more comments coming through. Recycled Teenager from the UK says, Happy New Year, Kerry. Snow here in England. Lovely seeing warm South Africa. Yes, Recycled Teenager. It is always nice to see a warm setting here in South Africa. I know the Eastern Cape does have quite drastic storms as well, and there's not many places that you can take shelter or get cover in the Eastern Cape, as it's mostly these vast open grassland areas. So especially in big storms, you'll find the rhinos seeking refuge under the big acacia trees. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Eldonyo, see what's happening over in Kenya. Oh wow, have a look what we have here, folks. We have got some giraffe that have come down to the waterhole. Looks like a very impressive male giraffe that has a very large third, kind of like an enlarged lump on the front of his head there, possibly from fighting with other males, and it looks like he's in the presence of a few female giraffe. Alright, let me try and keep up with the comments here. Got another comment from Eric. Eric says, are these white rhinos? So yes, Eric, over in the Eastern Cape, you only get white rhino within that region. It's the more prominent species in that area because of the open grasslands. We've also got a comment from Bush Bookie, says, oh my gosh, Guti. The only person I know who uses this word is your father, apparently, who is from Zimbabwe. It's a word that just describes a particular type of rain, an amazing soft rain, which is great for sitting with a cozy blanket and a cup of coffee. So bush bookie, yes, I don't hear many people using that word, Gootie, Gootie. I feel like it's when it's misty, but the mist is so heavy that you can feel a bit of condensation. It's also a bit overcast. It's just that Gootie rainy weather where you don't particularly want to be outside. I've got another comment here from Catherine. Catherine says, nice to warm up virtually. Apparently it is 12 degrees Celsius over in Germany where Catherine is. Not a fan of the cold weather. Shame, Catherine. I hope you get a nice hot cup of chocolate or a cup of coffee to warm you up in that cold German weather. Mr. Elemental says, greetings, Kerry and Wild Earth crew from a very pleasant Albany. Apparently the weather's lovely over where you are in Australia. So great to hear you're having some good weather. Got another comment from Harry Lolly. He says, happy Monday, Kerry, and to the FC team and all of the Wild Earth chatters. Apparently you are back to work today. Holidays are over. Very humid weather over in Cape Town during this holiday season. So Harry Lolly, I believe it could be quite humid in Cape Town during this time of year. And yes, getting back to work, my goodness. Adulting is such a terrible thing, isn't it? We have to work, and wouldn't it be awesome if we could just be on holiday all the time, like these giraffe or like wildlife? But I guess animals do have to constantly work all the time to keep themselves alive, like these giraffe, always feeding, always moving. But it would be great, live in a little bit of a Peter Pan syndrome, wonderland. I think I would get very bored though. Like, imagine living like a little Hyrax, going into rock dusty mode and just sitting up on a rock, sun tanning every day, not doing too much. Oh, I think I would get extremely bored. Oh well, what do we have here? So we had, when was I live at the waterhole last? On Saturday. We had a really epic sighting on Saturday of a martial eagle that came down to have a bit of a mud bath here in Eldonyo. It was really awesome. I've never seen a martial eagle having a mud bath so close up before, so it was a great sighting. And we also had 2 Grant's gazelle in the distance just behind our martial eagle. So a male Grant's gazelle and a female. It's a very special sighting. Probably one of my favorite sightings so far for this year, 2026. The year of the fire horse. My goodness, isn't it amazing how quickly time flies? These giraffe aren't too worried about time flying though. They just move and munch and then come down, find something to drink and carry on. So this male giraffe is probably following these females because one of them might be in season. He's probably very interested in mating with one of these females if she allows. What are they up to, these guys? So perfect habitat for these giraffe here in Aldonio. You can see lots of acacia trees or the vachelias. Perfect height and perfect habitat for these giraffe. They'll spend their days moving through these open grassland areas, feeding on acacia trees. During this time of the year, it's very special. I love watching giraffe during this green season because giraffe also love to feed on a variety of flowers. So they'll feed on the flowers and little shoots from trees. So it's always very interesting to me to watch what they're feeding on. Over in Mabulla, the giraffe during this time of the year will be feeding on the dombeas, the Dombea rotundifolia flowers, which almost look like these tiny little peach blossoms. They also like to feed on the little shoots from terminalia trees. So we've got another comment from Brody. Brody is asking, what is the youngest giraffe you've seen necking? So Brody, I've seen a young giraffe, maybe just a few days or maybe a week old, playing with one another. I wouldn't say they were necking though. So generally, I feel like the necking behavior comes about when giraffes start to become sexually mature, start to become very curious, and they want to challenge other males. So that's generally when they would start necking, probably between the ages of about 4 to 6, 7 years old is when they'll start learning how to neck with one another. But it does take many, many years of experience, just like this big male giraffe on the right, in order to defeat their opponents and to become, should you say, a competitor that's worth a challenge. Otherwise, the young males sometimes are just brushed off by the bigger males. They know that they're wasting their time with these younger bulls. Very similar to that of the behavior in elephants. The big male elephants sometimes don't bother to waste their time fighting with younger bulls because they know that it's not worth their energy being wasted. So energy expenditure in wild animals is something they need to be quite aware of. You know, they, especially in the dry season, in the green season, you see a lot more interaction, a lot more playful behavior in adult wild animals. Whereas in the dry season, it is so difficult for these animals to find food and water. So they'll be a lot more conservative about expending their energy on unnecessary activities. So melanistic marble is helping jog my memory. Melanistic marble said, apparently I missed quite a treat on Saturday. We had the Tusker, a big Tusker, paying us a visit to pay his respects to Craig the Tusker that unfortunately has just passed away. Apparently the Marshall Eagle was on Friday. Sorry, a melanistic marble. All of these holidays just seem like they are just jumbled into one. But yeah, it could have been Friday that we saw the Marshall Eagle. And lovely to have that Tusker coming through, and very sad that we have lost one of our very famous elephant tuskers. So today I wanted to take a bit of a moment to remember Craig, one of Africa's largest tuskers and a legend of Amboseli. So Craig was born in the early 1970s and lived to be about 54 years of age. That's an approximate guess that I've been seeing, or average age that I've been seeing a lot of people posting or commenting. So he was an impressive age for a wild elephant, especially one that carried such magnificent ivory. I'm sure everyone has seen photos of this incredible elephant, and for decades he moved through the ecosystem with quiet dignity, known for his calm nature and tolerance of vehicles and people. So he wasn't just a remarkable elephant because of his tusks, but because of the way that he carried himself. He was very steady, peaceful, and he had a lot of endurance. So he moved over extreme distances in order to feed himself. Yeah, we have surely lost amazing elephant there, but he did die of natural causes, and that is because of the protection. So thank goodness he's been protected quite closely and monitored all these years. And yeah, a very special elephant. So his presence will be deeply missed, but his legacy lives on in the landscape, and I'm sure he has sired many young elephants that will follow in his footsteps. So apparently Craig did have a sister, so a family member that might also carry and have the same genes. I think her name is Cassandra of the CB family. So they were never quite certain if this sister is how closely related they are, but apparently she does have very similar tusk formations, although they are not as big as the tusks of Craig. So she was a matriarch of the CB family, and she should also be around the age of 53, 54 years old. So amazing elephants, genetics that are still being passed on from one generation to the next there. So we've got a question here from Ellis. Ellis is asking, what ecological balance do giraffe bring within an area? Ellis, I will answer your question in a minute. In the meantime, let's head over to the hide over in Zimbabwe and see what else is happening out there today. Have a look what we have here, folks. Isn't this a beautiful scene? It is looking so lush and green here in Wangi National Park. Such a contrast to last year. So last year, what happened during the rainy season in Zimbabwe as well as parts of Botswana, they had a lot of rainfall, early rains, and then a very long period where there were no rains at all, and lots of the grass dried up, and then some late rains which were a bit too late. So it's great to see so much grass cover. And what bee eater is sitting here? There's a bee eater that is sitting in between the waterbuck. I'm not sure if it's a carmine bee eater. It could be a carmine bee eater or a European bee eater. Looks about the right size. It's much bigger than the little bee eaters. So those are the kind of the three bee eater species you'd get. You do get white-fronted bee eaters as well, but we've got a lot of migrants around at this time, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see carmines. I did see a few carmine bee eaters on the Zambezi River. Lots of white-fronted bee eaters, and the European bee eaters were also flying overhead. Nice healthy looking herd of waterbuck enjoying this lush green grass. Alright, so Ellis is asking about the ecological importance of a giraffe within an area. So Ellis, giraffe do play quite a subtle but yet very important role in maintaining the ecological balance, especially in African savannas, your wooded systems or woodland systems. So they are like natural pruning. Have a look, what is this little bird we have here? It's quite far. Thank you to our Zoomy for zooming in for us. Oh, I think this is a juvenile. Oh no, it looks like it could be a juvenile bee eater. There's lots of these juvenile carmine bee eaters around that haven't quite got their full pink plumage yet. I saw in Botswana and Chobe. Oop. There he goes. So yeah, giraffe do play a huge role in pruning a lot of the trees and the canopies, keeping the leaves and shoots short. They do help to support plant biodiversity. So they're quite selective feeders on certain trees, so they'll move long distances each day in order to help prevent any plant species from being dominant in an area. So they'll help to control different plant diversities. Of course, they're great seed dispersal agents, and they also reduce competition amongst herbivores. So because giraffe feed on very high trees no other herbivores can access. That does help to reduce the pressure on the grasses and lower shrubs that would be fed on by, for example, your browsers like your kudu. Oh, there he is. Hello, little guy. To have a look on this termite mound is our suspicious mystery bird, which I'm thinking is a juvenile carmine bee eater, and a nice big mature male waterbuck. Isn't this incredible? Just makes my heart so happy to see so much grass cover in this area. So last year I had a horse safari in Wangi in March, and by the time I arrived in March, all this green grass, there was hardly any ground cover of grass. There was just a few very small shoots, and most of the grass had actually started dying, which is a very bad sign. So this year I think is going to be a great rainy season all across southern Africa. I mean, we've had flooding in quite a few countries. South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe in some regions has also had flooding. I mentioned I went to Nata Sanctuary and it was completely flooded, so we could only visit the sanctuary once, and we didn't even manage to get halfway to the main platform because the sanctuary was so flooded. So no flamingos or pelicans, but we
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly here in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marlow Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I presented, we found Columba and the two cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
Look at this.
Wow, that's amazing, everybody. We'll see you there. Oh, have a look at this.
Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. This is just too astounding for words.
This is unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
For the breeding herds to actually get access to this area, so I'm just paying close attention to seeing if there is any females here. I'm mostly seeing bulls, but it would be very interesting to see if this is a breeding herd. Wow, check out this big tusker that we have here. Another big elephant tusker also coming to pay his respects. So yeah, it's quite difficult for the breeding herds to come here, so that's why we do normally only see big bulls at this waterhole. So it could just be a bachelor herd with a very young bachelor bull that has joined them. Yeah, normally a bull of this size would still be with his prenatal family group, but maybe he was a mischievous little chap and he got kicked out of his family group a bit earlier than expected. Wow. So we've got another comment, or a few more comments coming through. A Lens Through Africa says, hey Kerry, I know this is a little past the topic, but what would happen to Craig's ivory? I'd like to think they would preserve them. So Lens Through Africa, I have been wondering about that. I did see there were some photos that surfaced on social media, obviously, of Craig when he had passed away. National Parks was obviously present. I would suspect, obviously I don't know for sure, but I would suspect that they are probably going to preserve his tusks safely in a museum somewhere. It seems rather fitting. I mean, I know in Kruger National Park there's a very special elephant museum with some of the largest tuskers of the Kruger. You can see their tusks displayed there. So they'll probably display Craig's magnificent tusks in an elephant museum somewhere in Kenya. It would seem rather fitting. We've also got a comment from Dark Main Lover. Says, good afternoon, Kerry. So good having you here at Live at the Waterhole. It is always a pleasure to be with you, Dark Main Lover, and to share these awesome wildlife experiences across the globe. Wow, check out this guy. So he's missing a tusk, this big elephant bull, on the right-hand side. Looks like often it does happen often with these elephants. They do get into altercations or fights with one another and can either lose their tusks, and sometimes they don't always grow back. But you also have some elephants that have the genes that have been passed on from one generation to another, whereby they actually don't have any tusks. So I'm just looking here. The one elephant bull looked familiar to me. Don't know. But just having a look through my ID kit for the elephants in this area to see if I recognized him at all. Oh, this big boy goes. Alrighty folks, as our elephants have disappeared, let's do the same thing and go check out what's happening over at Menor Aquena. What a lovely scene we have here in Botswana. This looks like a great place to stake out and just sit for the day, wait and watch and see what comes out. I feel like with such a nice big herd of kudu like this, maybe you might be lucky. Might be some predators close by. I don't think this is one herd though. I would suspect this is probably two separate family groups of kudu. Generally kudu, unlike impala, like to be in smaller family groups, normally anything between 3 to 8 or 9 individuals, but most of the cases I've seen, they normally hang out in smaller family groups. I don't see a big mature male anywhere. There's mostly females. One young sub-adult male, he's, I'd probably say, about 3 to 3.5 years of age. We've also got some black-winged stilts here. I was watching a birding documentary yesterday on Netflix, which I wasn't very impressed by it. I didn't manage to watch it for very long, but I saw in the US they have black-necked stilts, which is quite interesting. They look exactly the same as our black-winged stilts here in Africa, besides the fact that they have a black crown and a black, it almost looks like a tin of black paint fell on their head and dripped down the back of their neck there. So yeah, lots of black, lots of different ibis species also in America as well that I've never seen before. So it's so interesting to see how you have the same species but different subspecies across the world that all look very similar but have adapted to living in different habitats. So I've got a question here from Wendy. Wendy is asking, is it possible that elephant tusks can get too heavy and give them back problems? So Wendy, a short answer is yes, it is possible. Elephants are very famously known for having well adapted long tusks, like our big elephant bull poor Mr. Craig. And these tusks are basically modified in sizes. They grow continuously through their lifespan, and in exceptional cases can weigh over 45 to 60, even 70 kilograms each. So imagine that weight. That's about 100 to 130 pounds a side. So that's a huge amount of weight. So elephants' skulls, necks and spines have actually adapted and been built to distribute this weight very evenly. So have very strong necks in elephants. The muscles and ligaments help to counterbalance the weight of their tusks, and that is how they're able to carry their head in a way that minimizes strain on their head and necks. But next time you are able to see an elephant skull, maybe if you're visiting a national park, also have a look at their skull and how it's designed. They actually have lots of tiny little holes and filaments in their head so that it's not one solid bone, and that is how all these little chambers, and that also helps to reduce the weight that elephants have to carry around with them every day. So we got a comment from Akona Michael, says, hi there, always great to see these beautiful animals. Yes, it is always great to see kudu. We don't see kudu very often on Live at the Waterhole. Maybe if we're lucky here or there at Tau or over at Tembe Elephant Park, but we don't see them very often. They're very shy, very elusive antelope species. Erica sent a comment saying, how do the kudu know that there are no crocodiles in the water? So Eric, the little pan that they are drinking from is quite shallow, but you will see these antelope species when they come down to drink at a waterhole. They're often very cautious, very shy. They move down to the water very slowly. Also in Africa we have crocodiles, we don't have alligators. And they do need to be very careful of crocodiles. If there's a young kudu, crocodile will take a chance to drown them or take them down. But I mean, in areas like Tau, when the water level's shallow there, we've seen on quite a few occasions, I've seen wildebeest actually escaping from a crocodile because the water is too shallow. Do you think they're going to look what's in that hole? I feel like they're going to investigate. What on earth is in that hole there? There's no way they can climb up this mountain. Maybe they're planning to start a rock climbing club of kudu. That would be rather entertaining to watch. Darkmane Lover says, Kerry, did Craig pass on from digestive issues due to no more teeth to help him grind his food properly? Darkmane Lover, I'll have to do a little bit more research on that. As far as I've seen, all of the posts, I mean, obviously there's been multiple people posting and everyone is posting their best and favorite Craig pictures and videos, and from all of the information that I've seen, they just mentioned natural causes. That is probably going to be my best guess, Darkmane Lover, as to a cause of death for a big elephant bull like Craig. I mean, he did still look like he was in pretty good condition. Often when elephants are on their last set of teeth or have lost their teeth and they're not able to eat anymore, they start to lose a lot of weight and a lot of condition. But I mean, Craig was a massive elephant, so there are chances that he could have lost all his teeth, yes. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Serengeti and see what else is out there today. Wow, have a look what we have here. I like to call him our little Spider-Man lizard. There's a rock agama lying on his usual little spot in the sun, probably trying to get as much sunshine as possible. You can see those very bright, vibrant colors. So this is a male. He's probably trying to attract any of the females. Look at those vibrant colors. So they'll be quite territorial, these lizards, while looking after their territory and also trying to wait for any females to arrive. You can see very sharp tail that he has here. There's one of the flat-headed rock garmers. Very bright. So the females are not as brightly colored as the males are. So the males do have this very bright, vibrant color. They are found in East Africa, including Tanzania, Rwanda, and Kenya. While I was in Nkewa, it was probably the most common agama species. On every little rocky outcrop, you'll find at least 1 or 2 males guarding their territories. I feel like that's all they do all day. I think the sun gives these agamas a certain hot-headed temper, because it seems like most of their day is just spent running around on the rocks, chasing other males away from their territory. They don't seem like they're very reasonable little lizards at all. They just like to chase other males away from their territory. Isn't he magnificent? So you can see the ear openings just behind his eyes there. So unlike us, they don't have your typical ears. They just have an opening on the side of their head. They're very well adapted to have a good sense of eyesight, so they don't get taken out by any larger predators. So I've got a question from Lola. Lola is asking, what evolutionary advantages might this extreme sexual dimorphism provide? So Lola, as I mentioned, not just with this agama species, but even with birds, I know you think it's quite sad that the females are not as elaborate and pretty as the males, but this vibrant color and elegant look that they have does come with a bit of a curse, I would say, because the males, because they're so territorial, they need to use their vibrant colors and their territorial behavior in order to, one, mark and keep their territories, but also to look after their females and even to attract females. So that's why they have this very strong sexual dimorphism, is because they need to use that color as one, it indicates if they are sexually mature, so that it shows the females that they are ready for mating. And if they have a prime spot, like a prime little pride rock spot that's got a good view, close to food and water, the females will be more attracted to those males. Same as in the antelope kingdom as well. Dark Mane Lover says, wow, that's a very pretty coloured agama. Yes, Dark Mane Lover, look at those talons and little claws. Very formidable little weapons that they have. So you have to keep their eyes out, because this would be a perfect little lunchtime snack for a bird of prey, like a lizard buzzard. Or even if you've got any shikras around, I often see shikras carrying lizards. And the diet of these flat-headed rockagamas would be, they often feed on insects. So on the rocks, you have to think of, when you think of what something feeds on, always think of its habitat and what might be in its habitat. So these agamas, you always find them around rocks. So on rocks, you can often find ants, beetles, grasshoppers, termites, spiders, and that's primarily what their diet will be made up of. They have quite a variety of foods that they will feed on, but they'll also feed on grasses, flowers, and fruit as well, should they become very hungry. Very interesting little agama. Just lying in the sun there. It doesn't look like he's got a very big little rock or big rock territory. I'm sure the female is not too far away. Those talons and claws of his are perfect for hunting. And you can use them in order, while hunting, and grabbing onto any little ants or beetles passing by. Oh. So just like with the kudu, how kudu have to be very cautious when coming down to a waterhole to drink, So does the sagama. You saw him tilting his head, looking up to the sky, making sure that he's not being spotted by any bird of prey. And then if they need to move out of the way, they are very quick, very agile. They quickly slide into the cracks and crevices of the rocks in order to hide away from the predatory birds. Alrighty folks, let's head across to the Masai Mara, see what else is happening out there today. Look what we have here. We've got some zebra feeding on this little ridge. Always makes me happy to see zebra. Wow. Looks like just 2 individuals. I'm sure the rest of the herd is not far away. They'll be feeding on all this lovely lush green grass that is coming through. Obviously in the Masai Mara, the rainy season started a little bit earlier than that in southern Africa. I think when I arrived in November in the Mara, that's when their short rainy season had arrived. So you can see, compared to the hide in Zimbabwe, for example, the grass in this area is not as thick and lush. So they're probably going into their short dry season now, building up for their next rainy season. So it's amazing, these countries in Eastern and West Africa that have such different climates. I know it's very similar in the Congo as well, and in Gabon, Rwanda, Uganda. So they'll normally have 2 dry seasons and 2 rainy seasons. So big rainy season, small rainy season, big dry season, and the small dry season, as opposed to in southern Africa when we just have a dry season and a rainy season. This is such a lovely time of the year. If there are only 2 zebra here, they better be careful for predators. You know, the lions in the Masai Mara are very skilled at taking down zebra. Be a perfect feast for a lion. So Lira has sent through a comment about our interesting little rockagama we were watching earlier. Lira says that they almost look like bearded dragons. So yes, Lira, they do have a bit of a bearded dragon look to them. They even have little extra flaps of skin on the side of their necks there, which I can imagine is also for the displays when they are trying to kind of intimidate any other individuals. Alrighty folks, there's an interesting scene waiting for us over at Roy's Dam, so let's go and check that out. Oh, wow, have a look here folks, so we are in the Sabi sands of South Africa at Roy's Dam, and look at this rain bucketing down. This is such an amazing little scene here. This poor waterbuck looks, I can't decide, the ears are kind of one forward, one back, so like the forward ear is indicating that it's content with life, and the ear pointing backwards is kind of telling me that it's a bit enough of the rain. Does it have to rain again? And if it's raining like this in the Sabi Sands, it makes me wonder it's probably going to be bucketing with rain here in Johannesburg later this afternoon as well. Look at this poor waterbuck. I think we'll have just a moment of silence to enjoy this scene, folks, and listen to the sound of the rain. So amazing, the rainy season. You feel the pure wrath of the rain gods just circling around you. The other day I sat outside on my patio and watched as the storm circled around us, and it was just crazy. The wind that was coming down and the rain. I'm amazed that this waterbuck is just standing. Yeah, normally most of the antelope, when it rains, they'll kind of go and seek refuge. Ooh. In a nice thick covered area. Maybe there's a bit of lightning there. So banter rat, I agree with you there. Someone needs to get this poor waterbuck an umbrella. I feel like he needs an umbrella hat. I organised for BK and myself when we were at Mabula last year in the rainy season. I organised us some little umbrella hats, which were pretty useful, I must say. I mean, we were getting completely drenched everywhere else, but at least mostly around our faces was semi-dry. So I feel like this waterbuck would look quite dashing with a little umbrella hat. I'm not too much of a fan of the bright colours, the red and the yellow and the blues, so I did spray paint them green. So a little green rain umbrella hat would be perfect for this waterbuck. So I feel like it's undecided whether it's enjoying this rain or not. If it was not enjoying itself, both of its ears would be backwards. But it's kind of got one forward, one back. Could also be listening out if there's any predators around. Penelope Kenyon has just joined us. Hello, Penelope Kenyon. Apparently you are coming to us live from a boiling hot KwaZulu-Natal. So rain does sound lovely. Oof! KZN in the rainy season. I think there's two places on this planet that I am actually okay not being near during the rainy season, and that's KwaZulu-Natal and Victoria Falls. The humidity in those two locations during the rainy season is absolutely unbearable. If you're not used to humidity, my goodness, I mean, you beg for the rain to come because all this humidity is building up, and then once it rains, less than a few minutes after the rain, the sun is out, it's shining, and it's pretty much hotter than it was before the rain. But this looks like here in the Sabi Sands, this rainy, gloomy, doomy weather is set in for sure. So I'm wondering where this female waterbuck's rest of her herd is. Maybe they are being wise and hiding in the bushes, rather than this female that's just standing out in the open. Maybe she's just trying to be more in touch with the elements and just feel all the rain, expose herself to the elements. I think it's always good to do that every now and then, just go and stand out in the rain and just take it all in, just like our female waterbuck is doing right now. So Paula said he is enjoying the shower. So Paula, yes, this female waterbuck definitely is enjoying this rain. Oh, it looks like it's clearing up a little bit. No, maybe not. I'm just imagining the smells of this fresh rain right now. Can you imagine just breathing in that nice fresh smells of the rain, the grass, the trees, the plants, the wild basil. So Wes is asking, are these waterbuck waterproof? So Wes, in some instances, I guess you could say waterbuck are waterproof. So just like ducks, so ducks have an oil preen gland that they use to coat their feathers with a liquid that helps to keep their feathers waterproof. So waterbuck have a similar liquid that is excreted from their pores, the pores of their skin, and it does help to give their coat a bit of a waterproof layering. So it's probably why this female waterbuck is not too phased about getting completely drenched right now. I do love it just after the rains, if you are out and about in a game drive and have managed to survive, bundled yourself up with a poncho and all the flaps down on the game viewer and hidden under a tree somewhere. if the sun does come out before you head back to camp, and you take a bit of a drive around in the muddy, wet reserve, you can find just after the rains, all the little baby antelope are full of energy. Cats as well. It's a perfect time. I feel like after the rains, everything is excited that the sun is out again, and all these little creatures take it upon themselves to have a great bit of playtime. Little impala pronking and running all over the show, have the zoomies like mad.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. This is action-packed.
Wow, that's amazing, everybody. We'll see you there. Oh, have a look at this.
Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. It's too astounding for words.
Unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
Oh, what has she seen? Oh. Alrighty folks, well, let's head across to Tembe. Apparently we have some more animals in the rain. Wow, look what we have here. Some woolly neck stalks, also looking rather weather swept, or like they've been through. Oh. So normally there are 4 resident woolly neck stalks that can be seen throughout the year here in Tembe Elephant Park, and they're looking rather wet and woolly during the rains. Looking very muddy in this area too. If the elephants come down, they are definitely going to have a great time in all of this mud. Perfect time for these big birds of prey as well, or these big storks, because there's lots of insect activity in the rainy seasons. I know we've been chatting a lot about migratory birds and why birds migrate, why do they need to move such far distances, and we're chatting about, like, especially when it comes to, it pertains to all birds, but especially with your storks and smaller birds of prey like your kestrels and your falcons, they'll be following the rains, because the rains just bring this eruption of life, eruption of insects and movement, worms coming out of the ground. It just brings forth this whole other world of life that then begins when the rainy seasons arrive. And that is what these birds are after. They're after those little grubs, the caterpillars, the butterflies, the worms, the grubs, the flying insects, thousands of flying insects, which we're very grateful for, that they remove them from but so the flying out. So we are still here with our woolly neck storks. I do love the name of these birds. They're pretty easy to remember. As soon as you see that very white prominent feathers around their neck, you definitely get a better idea of which stork they are. So I know some people can often confuse woolly neck storks with your Abdon storks, but Abdon stork is lacking of this very prominent white colours of their feathers on their head and neck. So I was just looking into, we were talking about birds and their oil preen gland, and if cormorants have, how cormorants and darters, for example, how they maintain their feathers. So most birds, as I mentioned, do have that oil preen gland that's near the base of the tail, which is known as the urophageal gland, which secretes oil that they use to coat their feathers with during preening. So with cormorants, they're quite special. Unlike ducks or pelicans, cormorants' feathers are only partially waterproof. And this partial waterproof layering does help them when they're diving and swimming underwater to be more efficient, unlike with our storks. But they still need to dry off their feathers. So that's why you can often see these cormorants and darters with their wings open, perched on a branch, trying to dry out their feathers. So in short, cormorants and your darters do still have an oil preening gland, and their feathers are only partially waterproof. Isn't that fascinating? The adaptation that they have to spending so much time in the water. You can see this little pan is filling up quite a lot with all this rainfall. Oop, some white-faced whistling ducks have also come to join us today. So white-faced whistling ducks will have a lot more waterproofing to their feathers than that of the darters and cormorants. So we've got a question here from David. David is asking, are woolly-necked storks found all over the world? So David, no, woolly-necked storks are not found all over the world. Your woolly-necked storks can be found mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, from Senegal and Sudan. Oh, have a look what we have here, folks. We have a huge crocodile in Twin Days over in Botswana, and we are not the only spectators. There is also a Goliath heron. Look at that guy. So one of the largest herons in Africa, also standing by very they're standing there very stealthily, just watching this crocodile. In most cases, crocodiles don't go for birds. Like, they don't always attack birds, especially such a large crocodile like this. But if they are very hungry, I have seen crocodiles waiting under a tree, some southern masked weavers when the chicks fall into the water, or if there's any plovers that are possibly giving the crocodiles a free dental treatment a little bit too close. So crocodiles will take birds if they are hungry enough, but I mean, during the time of plenty, like now, it's the rainy season, there's lots of fish around, lots of food provided, so I think our Goliath heron doesn't have to worry about this crocodile making him a meal. Look at that crocodile. So have a look here, folks. There is a bit of a theory about measuring of crocodiles. So they say if you use the tip of the crocodile's nose that pops out of the water to the base of his back scoot, which is their like false little ear ridges, that kind of measurement there can give you a bit of an idea of the length of the crocodile. I am not very good with maths. Obviously, I became a safari guide, so maths is not my thing. But there is some mathematical equation that you can use to measure the length of a crocodile. He is still there. Penelope Kenyon says that she loves the bush in the rain. All the plants look so clean and healthy. Yes, Penelope Kenyon, I feel like it is. The rainy season is a time of rebirth, new life. Everything is thriving. The birds are nesting. Baby antelope running around all over the place. It's just such a beautiful time of the year. The plants are growing. The grass is fresh. The ground is soaked with water. It really is a great time to be alive. Talking about the rains, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago, there wasn't a single cloud on the sky here in Johannesburg, and now it looks like there is a very horrible something brewing in the distance, which these crocodiles don't really have to worry about too much. But on those days where it does rain for days and days on end, these crocodiles do struggle to warm themselves up enough in the sun. Obviously, crocodiles are ectothermic, so they really do rely on that vitamin D from the sunshine in order to warm their bodies up. So they'll be trying as much as they can to get themselves on a bank to absorb some sunshine. I wonder what this crocodile is up to. It is quite a big crocodile. I would be a bit afraid if I was swimming in this little pan and this crocodile slipped into the water. That's why it's always best to stay very clear of any water source when you're out and about. No, don't want to be taken by a crocodile. And they can occur in such shallow water that you don't expect. Look, they disappear very quickly. The breeding season for the crocodiles was in about September, November, depending on the area. That's the time of the year that they lay their eggs in a sandy sandbank close to the river. At this time of the year, obviously in the dry season, they can also go for very long periods without having eaten, because in the green season, in the season of plenty, they'll be really feeding themselves as much as possible, so that during the dry season, if they go for a few weeks or a few months without food, it's not a huge issue for them. So crocodiles can go for quite a long period of time without food. Oh, Goliath Heron is still keeping an eye on that crocodile. I don't blame him. This Goliath Heron looks like he's quite a mature individual, and they have an incredible wingspan of around about 1.5 meters or 5 feet tall, and they can weigh between 4 to 5 kilograms or about 9 to 11 pounds, making them Africa's largest or heaviest heron species. They are quite fierce fishermen, so Goliath Heron will hunt partially while stalking or standing in very shallow waters, and they strike with this lightning fast bill in order to catch large fish. Sometimes they actually need to cut the fish in half or break the fish in half before they are able to swallow. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll see him making a hunt. I don't think I could be a heron. I think I would probably starve to death if I was a heron. I don't have that patience. Imagine just standing there for like an hour, 3 hours, 2 hours, waiting to get the right moment to strike and get a meal. Whew. I don't mind running. I can run to get a meal and climb things, but I don't have the patience to stand around for a meal. Some movement. What is happening? Oh, I've got some hippos. There's hippos in this pan. Oh! Yes, it looks like we've got some hippos in this pan. Always exciting. The rainy season does bring a lot of, as I mentioned, you get a lot of surprises in the rainy season. With all these pans and water holes filling up, you can sometimes find unexpected hippos popping into these little water sources that have all of a sudden doubled in size overnight. Just like at Elephant Pan the other day, we saw a big hippo in Elephant Pan over in Botswana. So that was also rather exciting. Looks like we also have an intermediate egret at the water's edge, also looking for his lunch. So Tony is asking a question about crocodiles. Tony wants to know, how do crocodiles learn how to do the death roll? So Tony, a lot of these behavior of wild animals is very much instinctual, but if they haven't managed to instinctively learn how to do something, then they'll definitely learn by watching other individuals. So for example, during the Great Migration, when there's lots of crocodiles, there's lots of hunting happening, if there's a young crocodile around, they can always learn and watch from other crocodiles how do I hunt? Oh, how do I pull off this piece of meat? How do I fight? So they'll learn from watching other individuals as well. Really praying that this Goliath heron might make a hunt. The Goliath herons can live anything between about 15 to 20 years of age. They normally sexually mature at about 2 to 3 years. That's when they develop their full adult colors. Got a question from Mr. Elemental. Is asking a question about our very brightly colored agama that we had earlier over in Tanzania. Elemental says, does the red on the agama warn predators that it may be toxic? So Mr. Elemental, this red on the agama that we were watching or were looking at earlier, it is actually not a warning of toxicity, unlike in some frog or insect species. Instead, this color is mainly about communication and reproduction. So I mentioned that these agamas are very territorial, especially over their territories itself, but also for their females. So the red head is most prominent in the dominant males during the breeding season. Alrighty folks, we'll keep an eye on our heron friend, but in the meantime, let's head across to Founders and see what else is happening out there today. Oh my goodness, these rhinos have not moved very far. They are having a super chilled and lazy Monday. This rhino is feeling so lazy, I feel like he's resting his head on this rock. And if I was a rhino and had such a heavy head like this, I think I would also want to rest it on a rock every now and then. I mean, looks like a hot day here in the Eastern Cape, so it's just the rhino's life. This is perfect rhino's life. They're just living their best life right now. Oh, we've also got some zebra out behind the rhinos in the distance there. We've got our Egyptian geese are still around, probably up to some shenanigans, who knows. It's a perfect rock for this rhino to also rub and sharpen his horn. What is this guy up to? Oh, our warthogs are still very indecisive, moving around the pan, deciding, should we come for a mud bath, or the rhino's going to chase us away? Maybe he's got an itchy ear or an itchy face. So the white rhinos are the largest rhino species, weighing in at about 1,800 to about 2,700 kilograms in big males, or about 4,000 to 6,000 pounds, measuring up to about 4 meters or 13 feet long. Oop. Okay, he's decided. He's scratched his itch on his face and he's just going to lie back down in the water. Now take a chill pill. Those warthogs are still trotting by. They don't seem wet, so I don't think they've had a mud bath. Maybe they're just not too happy to share with the rhinos. They know the rhinos are rather big creatures. They're not too happy about coming into the water with the rhinos around. Got a question, interesting question here from Benny. Benny's asking, which is the oldest crocodile in the world? So Benny, apparently one of the oldest living crocodiles in the world today is a Nile crocodile named Henry. He lives at Croc World Conservation Centre in Scottsboro, South Africa. Wow, yeah, I need to go and meet this guy. Apparently this crocodile is believed to have been born in the 1900s, making him on average about 120 to 124 years old. That was in late 2025. Not too sure if he is still alive, but definitely a place I think I need to put on my list. So if you are traveling to South Africa, or if you want to, out of curiosity, go to meet the world's oldest crocodile, head across to the Croc World Conservation Centre if that is something you are happy with, in Scottsboro, South Africa, and you could possibly meet one of the oldest crocodiles. Apparently this crocodile was born in the Okavango Delta of Botswana and was moved to Croc World in 1985. He measures around 5 meters, which is 16 feet long, which is incredibly long for a Nile crocodile. Wow, that is an incredible size for a crocodile. But your typical age of crocodiles is normally about 60 to 80 years old. But Henry the crocodile so far holds the longevity record for all crocodiles. I know a big crocodile is definitely measuring between 16, I think there was one crocodile, the longest crocodile in the world, measured 23 feet, and he was recorded in Tanzania. Look at this rhino. He is snoozing super hard. I've got another question about our Goliath heron from Lyra. Lyra says, we saw a Goliath heron catch and swallow a huge carp in the bird sanctuary in Nigel. Oh, yes. I'm not surprised Goliath herons can catch massive carp, catfish, tilapia. They are efficient, very efficient hunters. I feel like this is a great time for a quiet moment, folks. If you are wanting to take a bit of a decompression time in your very busy Monday, I feel it too. I would love to be snoozing like this rhino as well. Let's just have a bit of a quiet moment here, just to take in the sights and sounds and have a little relaxing moment with our snoozy rhino. Imagine just snuggling up to this rhino right now and taking a little cat nap with a rhino. I don't think they'll be as soft and snuggly as one would think. So look at their skin. We've got such a great view of these rhinos so close up, my goodness. I've got quite thick, rough, rugged skin. It actually looks very similar to the skin of our little agama. A very rough skin of these rhinos. You can see his little ear notches there. You can see his horn. He has been rubbing, I think it's filled with mud. He's been rubbing it on that rock. He's just enjoying keeping his eyes tightly closed so the flies don't get in there. Look, in there's some flies hovering around his eyes there. So white rhinos are generally a lot more social than other rhinos. As you can see here, there's about maybe 3 rhinos just in this vicinity. The females and calves may form small creches, and the males often protect their territories. They patrol and protect their territories. The males are very territorial. They do have a very good memory and excellent sense of hearing. You can see even though they're lying here, they know they're safe, constantly moving their ears around like little satellites, picking up on any sounds or disturbances around them. special to watch. Don't often get to see rhinos so close up. So white rhinos have been around for millions of years, making them almost like living fossils in the African ecosystem. A newborn rhino calf can weigh anything between about 40 to 65 kilograms or 90 to 140 pounds. They normally stay quite close to their mother for the first 2 to 3 years, learning how to graze and navigate the savannas, how to be a rhino. And then by the time the female gives birth to her new calf, that's generally when she will then kick away her sub-adult. Sometimes the process doesn't go as smoothly as she would hope. The calves get very attached to their mother, so it's difficult for them to leave the mother. So she might follow the mother for a few days or even up to a few weeks, having some slight separation anxiety before the youngster realizes it is time to fly the nest, little one. What white rhinos for me, I don't feel they're as active as that of black rhino. So black rhino are a lot more bouncy and active and have a lot more of an active lifestyle compared to the lifestyle of white rhinos. White rhinos, they spend most of their day, a small portion of their day grazing, but I would say majority of a white rhino's day is spent just like this, snoozing hard. Talking about the skin of the rhinos just now. It's about 1.5 centimeters thick. Alright folks, well, let's head across to the Serengeti and see what else is happening out there today. Ooh, looks like we've got some monkey business going on here. We've got a troop of baboons that has rolled in. These are probably your olive baboons, which are slightly smaller than the chukma baboon. So a big olive baboon male is probably weighing about 10 to 15 kilograms less than that of a chukma baboon. But they have very similar social structures in their family groups. They still both have large troops that they live in. They roost in trees at night in order to evade predators. But I do feel like these olive baboons, they do have very thick furry coats, which can be a bit deceiving. It makes you think that they are very similar size to that of the chukma baboons. He's got an itchy head. And if you have a look at the males, a prominent difference between olive and chukma baboons is the males also have a more, how can you explain, a very more prominent nasal ridge compared to that of the olive baboons or chukma baboons. But very similar social structure. They cause just as much chaos and havoc as the chukma baboons do. Over in Kewa, there is a troop of baboons that hangs out close to camp. luckily it seems like they are quite respectful of the camp for now. They don't give too many problems, but every now and then when I was out and about for a little stroll, you'd accidentally bump into one of these baboons lurking around the periphery of the camp. Oh, actually no, I think they have some of the Maasai guards that walk around the camp and make sure that the vervet monkeys and baboons don't intrude and break into the camp. I think the vervet monkeys can be a bit of a trouble as well. Naughty little critters. So they'll be moving through these open areas, foraging. This time of the year is a great time of the year for baboons as well. We were talking about how the birds are just enjoying themselves, all you can eat insect buffet, but same with these baboons. With these baboons, there's so much food around. All those fruits and flowers, shoots and little grass tubers we were talking about are also fed on by these baboons. They are omnivorous, so baboons are known to kill antelope and feed on meat during the dry season. They'll also feed on ground nesting birds, or if there's any eggs or nests on the ground. They are also known to feed on eggs, seeing as they are omnivorous. But yeah, definitely during this time of year, food is not a problem for these baboons. They are just having the best time. Food is available, they don't have to move such far distances. Oh, be careful, little one. Watch out, there's no crocodiles. Oh, shame. These baboons can also fall prey to crocodiles. They do need to be very cautious when drinking from these shallow waters. Have a look, they'll be sitting there digging away, picking away at anything that they can find that might be of interest to them. But it's interesting that these baboons, they will feed on pretty much anything and everything they find. So as they're sitting there on the ground, they'll turn rocks over. If they find beetles and grubs and centipedes, they'll also feed on those. I saw on the Africam Instagram page, they had I think it was a water thickney that managed to capture a little centipede. It was at night, so it was a bit difficult to see, but this thickney caught a massive centipede and was trying to figure out how on earth is it going to kill the centipede and how is it going to swallow this giant creature. Centipedes can be quite ferocious little creatures, so do not want to get on the wrong side of a centipede. Quite a painful little sting. But this water thickney was obviously very hungry, and the centipede was on his menu. Look at them. So you can see they're all in the grass there. It's quite a busy group of them. So there can be anything between about 15 all the way up to 30, 40 individuals that will move through these areas foraging. They'll probably have a good roosting tree somewhere close by. As it gets closer to nightfall, they make their way to their roosting spot. I'm sure we've all been out and about in the bush while these baboons start making their way close to the campsites, and where hopefully you do not have your tent pitched underneath a baboon tree, otherwise you have made a very big mistake, my friend. There are some baboon missiles that will be dropping from that tree straight onto your tent. So that's the only piece of advice I can ever give you during camping, is never camp underneath a baboon tree. In the meantime, let's head across to Moella. Wow, kudu seem to be the flavor of the day today. We have had some great sightings of kudu. Look at these kudu. So I always wondered why in the green season, why prey antelope species don't see predators easily. But it's amazing how even in the green season, how a lot of antelope blend into the bush, and predators also blend into the bush. The minute they go into the thickets where it's shady, they completely disappear. So yes, it can be a little bit more difficult for predators to hunt in the green season because they're very easily detected in these open areas. So sometimes the hunting strategy for a lot of these predators might have to alter or change a little bit. But same as the prey species, they'll also need to seek cover and refuge in thicker areas that hides their presence.
Hello, I'm James Henry, and I'd like to take you on a very different kind of safari through the wild heart of Madagascar. In Underseebe, we'll track the Indri's eerie call through misty rainforest. Then it's east on to Masuala, where lemurs leap through the jungle, coral reefs glow beneath the waves, and adventure waits around every bend. Come, let's explore it together.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
Wow, that's amazing, everybody.
We'll see you there.
Oh, have a look at this.
Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. This is just too astounding for words.
Unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
Especially if it's close to the Mahadi Pans area. That's such a salt-rich environment. So you get a lot of salt in the soil. That's what these animals will be practicing geophagia for. They'll be licking the soil to get their daily mineral kick. Interesting, these acacia trees. Unfortunately, in this area, you can really see the impact of elephants here. A lot of these trees have been pushed over during the green season by elephants due to the high pressure or demand of food that these elephants need. But it does create a bit of excess feeding points or extra feeding little stations for other antelope like kudu and bushbuck. Now these acacias that were probably never accessible to these antelope species, now when they do have their leaves, if they're still alive, they can now be browsed upon by kudu. I feel like this kudu's noticed something. She's looking. Look at those big beautiful ears of hers. all the better to hear you with. So again, kudu have incredible sense of hearing, sight and smell. So that's so that they can detect any predators that might be lurking around them. These males, as you can see, this youngster sub-adult male kudu on the right, his horns are still very short, so some of the male kudu's horns can reach lengths of between 1.5 to 1.8 meters, or about 6 feet long. Those spiraled, very beautiful spiraled horns. Oops, some Egyptian geese just flew into the waterhole. And these kudu, as well as eland, are famously known for being able to scale or jump very high obstacles or objects. Again, this is a good defense mechanism for them when running away or trying to escape predators. They can jump over 2 meters or 8 feet high. So it's amazing how agile and fast these antelope are. So graceful. And those vertical stripes that they normally have between 7 to 11 vertical stripes. That does help to break up their body structure in the thick bush. And if they stand still enough, you often don't even notice that they are there. Amazing masters of disguise. The rest of their herd is somewhere close by. They'll be constantly watching and monitoring where the rest of the herd is while they're moving through these open areas, so they don't get lost or separated from any other individuals within their group. Bonnie is asking a question: which antelope needs the most water? So Bonnie, I guess all antelope species can be divided, or any animal species can be divided into 2 different groups: water-dependent species and non-water-dependent species. So I'd say waterbuck are probably the antelope that has the highest demand for water. They need to have a water source, not just to drink water, but they often occur very close to water, like in rivers, swamps or lakes. Unlike your desert adapted antelope, oryx, springbuck, which can actually survive for very long periods of time without drinking. Even some of your duiker species, like your common duiker, your grey duiker, or some of your little duiker, can go very long periods without drinking. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Tau and see what other antelope are out and about today. Oh, we have been chatting about impala quite a lot today, so it is nice to see some impala, and it looks like we have a bachelor herd of impala. Wow. This is quite a large bachelor herd of impala. Moving through the shorelines of this pan here at Tau. I think also looking out for our crocodile. Look at this vegetation. I mean, it's crazy to think a few months ago this was just a barren open area with just rocks and sand and more rocks. Not a single living, growing plant. I mean, you can see the tree line there where the small brush vegetation starts. So, of course, that hasn't changed too much. It's gotten a lot greener. But, I mean, this whole bank, this whole shoreline area is completely transformed. And talking about jumpers, impala are also famously known for being incredible jumpers and can run and leap very quickly. They can leap up to 3 meters. So gives the kudu a bit of a challenge. So when they're alarmed, that's often what they'll do. So like these impala right now, they're feeding, very calm, very relaxed. So they'll always be looking out, paying attention to any predators that might be around. But the minute they notice something, one of the impala will alarm call, and they'll all scatter, leap and run in different directions. So they'll leap with very high leaps in the air with stiff legs, which is called pronking, and this can be a confusion tactic that they use to confuse predators. I mean, these are mostly young impala, but during the rutting season, which is normally about April, May, the dominant male rams will often defend their territories, and the ewes or the females will move through these territories with younger males, and then they will allow the dominant territorial males to mate with them. And we mentioned earlier about kind of the feeding structure of impala. As you can see here, they are quite mixed feeders. They do feed, they graze, they browse, so have quite a different adaptation, and that's probably why impala are such a successful species, because they've adapted to being able to survive in many different habitats: woodlands, savannas, grasslands. There's also an Egyptian goose roaming around in the thick brush. So I'd say impala, I wouldn't say they're necessarily an extremely water dependent species, but they do need to drink at least once or twice a day, just like buffalo. Buffalo, quite a water dependent species, especially if they have lots of little calves. Again, they need to drink at least once or twice a day. But I mean, you have some tiny little antelopes like steenbok, or again, as I mentioned, your great duiker or common duiker, that can go days, if not weeks, without drinking fresh water. So they've adapted, like oryx. Oryx can also go weeks without drinking water. They've adapted to getting their moisture from other kind of sources, like digging up tubers and feeding on very water-rich tubers. Generally, the lifespan of these impalas is about 12 to 15 years of age, although in captivity, impala have been recorded to live up to 20 years of age. We've got a question from Lola. Lola is asking, do impala males produce more hormones during the rut? So yes, Lola, male impalas do produce more hormones during the rut, and it's actually quite a crucial part of their breeding strategy. So how it works is there's a testosterone spike that occurs during the breeding season, as I mentioned earlier, between April and May. That's when they experience a significant increase in testosterone, and this surge fuels their territorial behavior, which includes aggression and dominant displays towards any rival males. Also, if you've ever lived or worked in the bush during April, May, the impala rutting season, I'm sure you've heard the ghastly sounds that these impala make during the rutting season. One would find it rather difficult to believe that that ghastly sound came from an antelope. It sounds like it could have been rather from a leopard or a predator of some sort, as opposed to coming from an antelope. Oh goodness. So the testosterone that these impala, high testosterone levels that they experience, does enhance the vocalization as well as scent marking, and this does help to signal their fitness to both the rivals in an area as well as females. And during this rutting period, some physical changes that might happen is the male sometimes develop a darker or richer coat, especially on the back or mane, depending on the species or per region. Oh, here's a common moorhen sneaking into shot here, looking for a bit of a meal, I guess. So most of these impala are quite young, and just as with elephants, it's so important this time that these male impala have together. They will be learning from the adults or more mature males. Lots of testing and sparring, fighting with one another, so that one day when they are sexually mature, they will be very well prepared to mark their own territory and also challenge any rivals. Ooh, what is this male doing? Have a look. He is coating his horns in mud. Again, another territorial behavior that will take place is sometimes these male impalas act absolutely bonkers. Like to coat their horns in mud I think it's to make their horns look thicker, to look bigger, so they look a bit more intimidating. Look at this guy. He's wagging his tail like a dog, super fast. It's also a sign of the fact that they have a lot of energy, that they're very strong when they're able to use all this extra energy on rutting. Alrighty folks, I believe there are some more antelope over at the hide waiting for us, so let's head across to the hide over in Zimbabwe. Ooh, so we've still got some more impala. Obviously we were talking about earlier how impala are probably one of the most successful antelope species in Africa. And we've still got our waterbuck that are hanging around. We had a question here from Tony. Tony's asking, if impala groom themselves too often, can they lose their teeth? So Tony, no. Impala don't lose their teeth from grooming themselves too much, because they'll mostly be grooming their external body, like their fur, by licking, rubbing and nibbling. Although impala do have a specialized grooming tool that they use, which is their teeth. So their teeth are specially adapted so that they can groom themselves. So it's not completely separated. So their teeth are not completely separated, and that helps. So with the incisor, they only have the lower jaw, which they use to nip grass when grazing. So the upper jaw has a hard dental pad instead of teeth. So their teeth are adapted for cutting and nibbling. So grooming, when it comes to grooming, impala use their lower incisors to nibble at parasites, dead skin, or hair tangled, like any tangled hair that they might have. And that's when allo grooming is so important. So impala will help to groom each other in order to form close social bonds. Ooh, there's a young impala suckling. Waterbuck are also just having such a great time. We've seen so many antelope species today. Nice to see all the antelope out and about. Lots of these antelope species do have little ones this time of year. Waterbuck are not necessarily season specific as to when they give birth. They can mostly give birth throughout the year. They're not like impala that only give birth during the rainy season, but waterbuck can give birth any time of the year. Oh, these little impala are getting a little bit big to still be suckling. Shame, they can be quite a pest to their mothers. The suckling can become quite aggressive. Some oxpeckers sitting on the back of those impala there, always a good sign. We haven't seen our hippo today. Moto, the fiery, cheeky hippo that lives in this pan, but I'm sure he's somewhere close by. I have been following some guides. Well, obviously I have quite a few guide friends in Wangi. There's been some really epic leopard sightings lately. Of course, lots of really good cheetah sightings up in the north. here on this concession, the Hyde concession. It is a private concession around the Hyde Lodge. It's famously known for a few cheetah coalitions that like to reside in this area, and of course it is one of the thresholds of territory for one of the largest lion prides in Wangi National Park, that when this pride is all together there can be up to 25-30 individuals. Imagine seeing 30 lions all in one place together. My goodness, that is a lot of lions. I think the most I've seen together was 25. Otherwise, it's interesting the dynamics of the lions in this area in the Hyde. Throughout the year, yes, they have their core pride that they do join up to make that 25-30 individuals a few times a year, but then they'll kind of split off, and you'll have some of the lionesses with some young males, some other males will split off. You'll get some sub-adults where they'll split off with some lionesses. So yeah, they will split up into lots of little micro prides, but then they do often come together and join together, especially at a big kill or during the dry season when there are a lot of carcasses for the dead elephants that might not have survived the long dry season. That's when you can find all these lions coming through. But I believe there are some lion cubs around in this area. They must have been born end of November, middle to end of November. I think there's at least 2 litters of at least 4 or 5 in each litter. Small little lion cubbies, so always good to see some new blood coming through. And of course the lion pride that is in the area, a lot of the genes and genetics are from Cecil the lion. So these are his descendants that are still roaming Wangi National Park. Paula says, what a beautiful scene we have here with these 3 waterbuck in the grass by the water. Now with our Paula that are up to quite a bit of shenanigans there. So these youngsters are being quite rough with their poor mothers while suckling, and the males roaming around. We've got some ox pickers. There's just so much happening here. I'm also looking in these camel thorn trees. Just in the distance here, perfect place for some leopards to be lying up in those trees, blending and hiding very well. So Dex is asking a question. Dex is asking, what do you miss from your time in Kenya? Oh, Dex, there's a lot of things I miss. I miss Big James. Big James and I had a great time. But I miss those Sopas girls. They were probably my favorite little pride of lions there in the Mara. Definitely miss little Kipapeo, the little female leopard. She was a very special little girl. Yeah, just the wide open spaces, the crazy sightings. We had some really great sightings. Oh, I miss our afternoons on the Sand River, sitting with the Sand River pride of lions while those little youngsters were playing in the sand. My goodness, we had some amazing afternoons, just hours and hours spent with these lions. It was very special. I mean, most days we actually had to leave because it was getting dark, but if we could, we would just stay there, sleep over, and watch them the next morning. But yeah, very special times that we had there in Kenya. But yeah, I'm sure the new guides that are there, they've also had some great sightings. I've seen some amazing lion and leopard sightings that they've been having. Tim also had some amazing sightings while he was there. Dominic, I know, was on safari recently. He had a great safari with some great bird lifers, lots of leopard and cheetah sightings. So lots happening there in the Mara. Shame. It's sad to hear about Nora. So Nora, the female cheetah, also passed away recently. She had a very long life, so she really contributed to the conservation of cheetah in the Masai Mara. She was a very old female cheetah, probably one of the oldest female cheetahs I've ever heard of. I think she was at least 12 or 13 years old, which is quite old for a cheetah in the wild. And talking about cheetah in the wild, again here at the Hyde, in the Hyde area, 2 of the cheetah I know quite well, or I do know, I have seen a few times. So there's a female last year
Step into the exciting world of the original science. Next September, Master Tracker Renus Mhlongo and Wild Earth's Steve Falconbridge lead a spectacular safari through the Kruger, where you'll learn to identify tracks and then trail iconic big game on foot. Days are spent immersed in the field, evenings around the fire sharing stories, from the hair-raising to the hilarious. This is the ultimate wild immersion for the nature connoisseur.
Wow, that's amazing, everybody. We'll see you there. Oh, have a look at this.
Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. It's too astounding for words.
Unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
Now enjoying the sunshine. Sorry, our water buck disappeared quite quickly. He's obviously on a mission. It does look quite rocky and dry in this area, so I'm not surprised that our water buck was heading off looking for greener pastures. This looks like a perfect little nesting bank for these blacksmith lapwings. They could be quite aggressive, these lapwings, when kind of defending their nest or territory. On my running route here in Joburg, there's a pair that are nesting on the side of the road, and every time I run past, even though I give them ample space, they normally come through and give me a bit of a mobbing, tell me to stay away. So always keep an eye out. Don't want to squash eggs of these blacksmith lapwings. They do try and chase away any intruders. Check at these guys. Looks like a lovely day. Looks very hot though over in Kenya. Alrighty folks, well, we have had a great day here today live at the waterhole, so I just want to say a big thank you to all of our viewers for joining us. Big thanks from the Wild Earth team. I will be with you for most of this week here live at the waterhole, so I look forward to hearing from you tomorrow and seeing what else is out there, what we can find at all of our locations. Always so much happening, so much out and about, so bring those comments and questions. I'm always dying to hear from you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. It has been a great day being with you. We will see you tomorrow, folks. Thanks again for joining us.